Wanted to do a quick video on a concept that came to mind. I've written about and talked about fact immunity in the past, and when I first realized that that was the big news, and then it's like, why, why did that evolve? And I realized that it was because it was protection. By making people fact immune, you ensure that they'll be as cognitively varied as they are genetically varied. And that's the goal, is to have a wide variety of options available at any one point. I love quoting a sticker I saw. It's from a book. I can't remember the book. It's like a comic book, graphic novel, whatever, however you want to put it. But it really wasn't. Anyway, Schwa Corporation. Yeah, that's where it came from, I think. But it was a sticker, and it was an industrial sticker. And I need to figure out how to show images to this thing. Put them in the window. Anyway, in real time without having to edit. It was an industrial themed safety machine sticker kind of style, and it says, support mutation. The survival of any species over time depends on reserves capable of exploiting or resisting opportunity. I got that ordering wrong, but there's the idea. And obviously, nature's like that. You don't want to have all of one kind of banana, because then one plague will wipe out all the bananas. Ghost in the shell. Over specializing and breeding weakness. You want to avoid the weaknesses of an unchanging system. You want copies are not the same as variety and originality. Excuse me. Lungs are dry. I made some changes to my sleeping arrangement, and I slept longer, and I think better than I have in a long time. And my lungs were like, this is weird. Anyway, and I had a thought, and there's an example of it in popular media. There's a movie, Idiocracy. It's about what happens when the population becomes stupider over time, because evolution doesn't guarantee that you'll get better and smarter and faster and stronger. It just means it's all about reproduction. It's all about making more copies, And so they end up in a situation where the citizens are stupid. And that's funny and everything. And, you can go watch that and read about that. But there's a part of that movie where they're fighting with crops, and they're putting Gatorade on their crops instead of water, because it's a comedy and it's supposed to be silly. But the idea of, and the guy that was from the past, and super smart compared to them, he couldn't convince them. He ended up having to lie to them, and he was like, I'm Dr. Doolittle for plants. I can hear the plants, and the plants are saying they want water, not Gatorade. And there's a scene where he's trying to explain it to them, and they don't get it. And it's all supposed to be funny, a bunch of idiots being like arguing in favor of Gatorade on plants. And we think we're so superior when we watch that, and we're not. We believe all kinds of Gatorade plant myths. But my brain framed it. I wake up and I think of stuff, and I'm making coffee, and it's kind of a process. So, and it's all habitual. So I'm doing it kind of on autopilot and thinking while I'm doing it. And it framed that question to me in a new way. It was like, what happens when a piece of advertising is smarter than everyone? And the answer that comes to mind is, basically religion. And in Idiocracy, it's like the Brawndo Corporation. But fortunately, Idiocracy is not how a society of stupid would be. It's much nicer than it would be. And it's much more alive than it would be, being honest. A society of stupid would be more like Mad Max. It'd be violent. Just a herd of chimps, like the kind you read about in the jungle that will go around and then you read about a chimp attack like that. That's what stupid would be. So, Idiocracy is one of the upper levels of hell. It's not one of the deep circles of hell. So I'm thinking, but yeah, a piece of advertising, because everything a person makes has a level of intelligence to it. You think about cleverness of a device or something, and that Brawndo thing, the like somebody in that universe or a group of people came up with the idea to, and this is in a context of Brawndo's already everywhere, so they're scouring the market looking for new niches, and they're like, oh look, and basically they have arrived at the point to where we have to replace all liquid with Brawndo. And that's kind of an interesting a stab at capitalism. It's like must squeeze profit out of everything. Hydraulic despotism. We must convert this water into profit stream. And how do you do that? And exclusivity and denial and rights and all that. But that piece of advertising, that concept ended up being smarter than the whole of society. There was no check on it. It just ran rampant. Replace like an organizing principle. Like one of the things that I think about the Star Trek and Borg, the Borg in Star Trek, how they're so stupid. I was like, you guys don't know how to use a cloaking device? You don't know how to use a hologram generator? You don't know how to lie? It's like, we're lucky the Borg are dumb. And I think it's because they didn't want to, like originally it was just a throwaway monster. Like kind of creepy dudes with wires. Awesome. And it's genius. It's great. But, you start thinking about it and it's like cybernetically enhanced transhuman society. It really doesn't matter how evil they are. They would be the winners. Nature doesn't care. Nature lets you have stuff like screwworms and parasitic wasps and cordyceps fungus. It doesn't care, So there are some heavy plot nerfs to the Borg collective, okay? And I think about that a lot because people use these fictional examples as tools for parsing out how we would handle a deeper future. And that deeper future is not so deep at the moment. I mean, we're right up on brain chips and we're already getting the AI and it's going to be a thing, And, but I think about how the Borg doesn't ever convince anybody of everything. It doesn't use propaganda. It doesn't use religion. It doesn't use any of these tools to softly get through the door. It's all, I mean, they're more warlike than the Klingons. I mean, at least the Klingons will create spies and stuff. Not the Borg. There's no such thing as a Borg spy. No such thing as a Borg propagandist. Because that's kind of an easy sell, especially versus the Federation, because the Federation's all evil, and I don't want to turn this video into that. But I'm just saying that because I had really good advice from a commenter. It's like, you need to focus, and I'm trying. But for me right now, there's like this battle between focus and content. It's like I don't want to. If I had to focus too hard, I won't do the video. So there's a trade-off there. I need a team, but who cares? So I can't get a team. But yeah, what happens when a piece of advertising is smarter than the entire society? It's completely possible to stack intelligence until you make a machine, a scamming machine, a con artist machine. It's like the example that comes to mind is a slot machine. Imagine a slot machine so good that it beats everybody. And when I say beat, I mean it lures them in to put in coins and takes more coins than it puts out. The purpose of a slot machine is to extract money from the population. We have that, and they're called billionaires. The billionaires themselves are basically just a figurehead at the center of a data construction, a construction of policy and rules and propaganda and all these things. And they're like the little homunculus in my brain. Like there's a little billionaire controlling all of these cells, and it's hegemonic and it's brutal, and it doesn't care about the fate of, my individual finger cells. Now, I do a little, right? If I knew that my cells were unhappy, right, I would snap my fingers and had the ability, I would snap my fingers and make them happy. Like, I like to think of myself as a potential benevolent God. I wouldn't be a torturer God. Having said that, if it would materially improve my life to discard my body, I would. Think about the morality of that. Now, they're not, sapient organisms. They're not swimming around thinking, and I highly doubt they're feeling either. It's mostly protein machines. It's mostly no more alive than a handful of sand. And that gives me moral authority over it. It's my meat. It's nobody's meat. Nobody cares. I can do whatever the fuck I want with it, essentially. But when you expand the concept of that to a larger thing, you get societies and cultures and things. And it just starts being different. It's like the quote, altruistic societies and all that. And there's I guess the equivalent of, in a biological setting, of advertising would be signaling. Like the idea that a virus can hide from the immune system, or like an overreaction of the immune system. Like imagine poison ivy. It causes your whole immune system to freak out and start damaging everything. And a lot of these things, the logical end of them being maximized, or some concept carried to its end, is death. And in Idiocracy, the dominant form of advertising life, and we'll just, for purposes of metaphor, imagine it as a biological system. This notion, this meme of Brawndo being better than water came to completely dominate. It didn't beat toilets, which is, something you could play with, I guess. It's like, look out the toilet. It's like, well, why didn't they put Brawndo in the toilet? They could have just said toilets like electrolytes, right? Or Brawndo is much better for cleaning the toilet. There's a million ways you could put Brawndo in the toilet. But it's like, to carry that, it became the dominant life form. And there was a seed in that society, a hidden, buried, ancient seed, and that's, not sure. And he's trapped, but he wakes up and he brings doom for the meme of Brawndo is better than water. And I think about that because it's like attacking a dominant meme. That's a good skill to have. If we need to avoid tragedy of the commons, we need to avoid the Brawndo situation in our own context. So we need to be thinking about that kind of thing. And like I said, fiction is good for getting you to think about deeper futures. And how he did it, he couldn't do it with reason. He couldn't do it with facts and logic. He basically did it through conquest. He did it through deception. But intelligence is a weapon. We involved intelligence for the same reason bears evolved claws. It's because it's a weapon. It lets us do all the things. And it's just important to think about, I think, what happens when a piece of advertising becomes smarter than all the people. You know, what do you do? And it kind of goes to the Second Amendment. You know, it's like if a organizational system fails, you need a way to delete it or at least disable it so that you can repair it. It's like, don't build a God machine because it may turn into an evil God machine and you need to be able to turn it off, right? Or at least tie it down, put it on pause, something. Make some changes. Something to think about, I guess.